Before we jump into this, just want to set the stage, and then we'll introduce all of these incredible panelists. It's a really unique panel, different from any that I've ever been a part of, whether it's on stage or in the audience, so looking forward to introducing them in just a moment. But first, just get a few things out on the table. The only thing we're doing here today is figuring out how we can sell more homes, list more houses, serve more people, and most importantly, we're not going to be sharing any theory with you. We're not going to share our next best idea that we may implement a year from now or possibly never, because you know how ideas go. What we're sharing is what we are currently doing right now in this market to list far more houses than the average agent in any one of our markets, and how you could take one or two or three nuggets that you hear here and have immediate implementation in your business. Okay, the entire goal of today is immediate, actionable, and swift implementation of what we hear today from these rock star agents. Is that fair? Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I think it's interesting to point out that we have San Diego panelists along with Scottsdale, Phoenix-based panelists. And the reason that jumps out at me, just to share a very quick story of what really led to the growth of our business, Sharon shared with you how it's all been through education, growth, masterminding, and really who am I surrounding myself with? What am I learning? Well, I come from a market, San Diego, that I'm sure a lot of you in some senses dismiss because it's like, oh yeah, but they're price points. Well, I get it. I understand why you are that way or think that way, because so many of the agents in my market, that's exactly how they think. They're aiming to sell 5 or 6 or 10 or 12, and geez, 20, you're like a god in San Diego if you sell 20 houses. Okay, so what I did was through learning events, some of them here in this very market, I said to myself, what if I learned to work the way you have to work here to make a living, but I brought that to San Diego? So I took something I learned from a different market and I brought it with me to San Diego, and I figured that would get pretty interesting quickly. And last year we closed out with $164 million in sales volume. Now conversely, what could you learn from somebody like a Kyle Whistle from San Diego or myself that would help you here? Well, you're going to hear a lot about how we build authority. How do we win at the listing appointment? How do we win before we even show up and then secure it afterward? And in our market, we have 22,000 agents and currently roughly 5,500 homes for sale. Okay, so 22,000 agents and 5,500 homes for sale. A competition level which is it's one of the absolute most competitive markets in the country, literally up there with the Manhattan. So what if you could learn to leverage authority, differentiation, and separate yourself from the pack, which we have to do with 22,000 agents in that few transactions, and you brought that to the Phoenix Scottsdale market. So hopefully we'll accomplish the goal of you having actionable items that you could take with you. Let's go ahead and introduce the panelists. I don't know, are we going to throw them up here on the screen? And we'll jump into the material. Sound good? Cool. All right. Well, we'll skip that then, because there isn't anything up there. But I'll just start here closest to me, Dan Nova, Venture REI. And what makes this panel so interesting, I said earlier, I've never actually been on a panel quite like this one, is you have your traditional real estate agents like Jennifer Weiner, and along with Kyle Whistle up here, myself, but we also have this new generation of investor presence that specifically here in your market is very heavy. So starting with Dan, right here. And sorry, I thought I was going to have a deal up here. So Dan, just to give you an idea, he's closed 690 transactions this year. Okay? This year, at an $168 million of closed real estate volume this year here, son of a builder developer, Dan represents some of the nation's largest institutions in their acquisitions and dispositions. Okay, Wall Street money, which is heavy in your market right now, and Dan represents them, as well as many local investors in Arizona and Nevada. Dan's background in real estate investments and financial modeling have led him to own one of the fastest growing investment firms. So Dan, we're really happy to have you. This can be awesome because with that much perspective, do you think he may know a thing or two about what is really making it happen for sellers? What are they talking about in their living room? What do they want to hear? What's important to them today? So that'd be awesome perspective to have from you. Jennifer, so happy to be here with you, by the way, just as a personal note. And top 20 agents in the MLS and top 1% in the nation. You were, during your time at RE/MAX, when you were there, you were the number, and this always blew me away, you were the #1 female team leader at RE/MAX in the entire state of Arizona, and came into this year on fire as you doubled your business again. So we're going to want to learn from you, how is it you've been doubling your business year over year? Last year, you served 198 families, and your transaction volume rounded out at $78 million. Recently made a move to eXp Realty here in Scottsdale. Nice to have you, and good seeing you. Tyler, our next panelist, Tyler Hickson, Open Door. Open Door, and I'm really interested to get all of the perspective you have, Tyler, because what you're doing in partnering with agents and trying to build win-win scenarios, and again, much like Dan, you have a level of perspective to mortal agents like ourselves is elusive because of the sheer volume you do. So just some things on Tyler. He's going to share their fee structure, discuss the life cycle of a home and how agents can earn the opportunity to partner with Open Door. And he'll share his view on the market and what's trending to get buyers and sellers to work with agents today. I know there is a ton of buzz about, I hear about Open Door and what you guys all say about Open Door, not even being in your market. So I know this is a daily discussion. We're really lucky to have Tyler here to share not only what you could be doing better in terms of messaging to home sellers, because you have a ton of perspective there, but also how you actually could leverage their platform and do more business through them. So, shall we jump in and get started? Kyle Whistle. My goodness, thank you. Who whispered to me? That was a good whisper. Kyle Whistle, how could I forget? I don't even need this thing for Kyle. So Kyle's in San Diego County. We battle it out year over year, and he always coming out on top. Actually, Wall Street Journal, this is an interesting thing. Wall Street Journal Real Trends, those rankings that come out. Only agent in San Diego County history to hit #1 by volume and size in San Diego County, which is absolutely just awesome. Did over 200 million last year. I believe the number was 205 million. BombBombs named them the #1 video influencer in the country. And he has, I think that covers it. What else do you want? That's enough? All right, awesome. Yeah, well, just an awesome, some of you may know him, some of you may not being in our San Diego market, but truly an icon agent in San Diego who anybody would recognize or be really happy to be in the room with. So super just privileged not only to have you here, but to be in business with you. So here we go. Want to jump in? Here's the thing. As agents, we hear all of the things that, you hear out there. In fact, your own Russell Shaw, I think, put out there, at least that's who I think of when I think of list to last. And there's that transition into how do you become a listing agent? Meaning, how do you turn that into your sole focus so that your business can move to that next level? And I think for anyone here on the panel, I'll start with you, Jennifer. Anyone here on the panel, there must have been a time, and this is an assumption, but I bet I'm right here, where you made a conscious effort to step into listings and have that be what garnered 80% of your attention or greater. Take us through that. Take us through that transition. Because I believe there's a lot of people in the audience that are wanting to make that same transition, but it's a lot easier said than done, or at least in our own minds it is. So what comes to mind for you when you think through that?
Well, I got into real estate in 2003 as pretty much my own buyer. We were buying and fixing and flipping homes here. That's what got us out from Huntington Beach to the desert in June when it was 115 degrees. So I was a buyer's agent for many years, and then the market did what it did, and so I had worked with short sales and REOs, but really wasn't intentionally until 2014 when I was working 70 hours a week. Back then I only had 3 kids. Today I have 4, but so it was a lot of, I wasn't leveraged at all. And so what I realized is in 2014 is when I intentionally started building my team. What I needed to do is to get listings, because it was list to last. It was being able to take those listings, turning them into more, providing more opportunities for my team. And that's when my business plan changed, and I pivoted and built a business that had listings, at the forefront of that plan.
So, what actually goes into that, right? Because I remember being there as well, but there's mindset issues that you have to work through. And then there are actually, you do have your buyer business, and for me at least, that was the majority of my business at the time when I made that transition. And there are certain steps you actually have to take in order to move that, which is what's feeding your family, and transition it to somebody who is going to, where do you trust that business to so you can place your focus elsewhere? Does that experience, Kyle, in your experience, what do you remember in terms of going through that? An actual step or two that you took that they might be going through the same thing?
Yeah, if you guys haven't read the Red Book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, that's essentially the Bible of our business. And the 3 pillars that it talks about in there is leads, listings, and leverage. And that should be the foundation of all of our businesses. For me personally, I'm a terrible buyer's agent. When I walk in a room and it's got pink carpet and green walls and a buyer goes in there and is like, oh my God, it's gonna cost thousands of dollars to fix this. I look at $15 a yard for carpet, $25 a wall for paint. That's just the way that my mind works. I've never understood how to work with buyers. I've never understood why you want to go drive around for hours and hours and hours with buyers. Doesn't make sense to me. There's been studies made, and they're all BS anyway, but the numbers that I've read is that on average with a seller you spend about 3 hours of time for every 30 hours that you spend with a buyer. That's huge. It takes 10 times the amount of time to work with a buyer as it does a seller. And I've had months where I've closed personally, 30 deals in a month on the sell side. I don't know if that's humanly possible on the buy side of things. I don't think you can possibly do that. I mean, just today we have probably 50 listings active out there. You can't work with 50 buyers actively at one time. It's just not possible. So when I got into business, I think everybody should be a buyer's agent at some point. If you guys are new in this room and you're trying to do this alone, don't. Go join a team. Find an awesome team. Jen's team, or I know there's a ton of awesome teams in this room. Start out on a team and learn what it's like to be a buyer's agent. Kind of pay your dues, just the same way when you join the military, you start out at a boot camp in there. It's the same thing. Start as an ISA or start as a buyer's agent. Take your lumps and understand how that side of the business works. And then you'll appreciate what a buyer's agent does and realize it's not what you want to do. You want to go after the listings, because that's how you end up doing, hundreds of transactions and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of volume and millions of dollars worth of GCI. You can just do so much more. So my first year in the business, I did 24 deals, 42 deals, 82 deals, and then I finally realized, okay, I need help. I can't do more than this. And I tried referring some of my business out to other people. I tried to, have some agents be under me and just kind of throw some leads at them. None of that stuff ever worked. But then I truly started to build a team and let go of all of those buyers that were coming in and let other people handle those for me. And that was the year I went from 82 transactions to 242 transactions, because I let go of the buyers, which freed up a ton of my time. It allowed me to go out there and sell a ton more homes on the listing side, and at the same time not waste all those buyer leads that were coming in. So it was a huge change in my business. And the other big thing that happened there too is when I understood culture. Culture is really, really important in your business, and as you guys grow your own teams, you really need to hire to culture. You got to know what your culture is, who's the ideal fit for your culture, all of that. When I first started out, I was hiring anybody and everybody. I had people from 18 years old to 118 years old. Some of these people are like, here, just log into your Gmail real quick. I'm like, what's that? And I was like, oh shit, this is not gonna go well. So you need to know what your culture is. And again, not that somebody 18 can't be successful, or not that somebody 118 can be successful. There's a million ways to be successful in this business, but you've got to know your way. and you've got to hire to your way. We literally call it the whistle way. Like, you've got to hire to your way of doing things and bring people in that fit that. I think it's super important as you guys grow your teams and your brokerages and all that fun stuff.
I will say that one shift of being a buyer's agent to a listing agent for me was confidence and mindset. When I was working with buyers, it was more about the warm and the fuzzy. You know, it wasn't like they were interviewing 5 different top agents to pick one. I mean, some of them might, but going up on listing presentations here in Phoenix, it's incredibly competitive. I know San Diego's a very competitive market, but so is Phoenix. So it was definitely building up my value proposition and gaining that confidence that, yes, I am a heck of a good agent. I will do the best job for these sellers, and, you know, getting the seller to buy into that confidence.
Awesome.
And the big thing is you can actually go do stuff on the weekends and at nighttime, which as a buyer's agent is when you're doing the majority of your work. You know, people get off work at 5. That's when your day starts a lot of times as a buyer's agent, and you're showing properties until dark. Meanwhile, we're out at happy hour having fun because you guys are showing our properties for us while we're hanging out having cocktails, and same thing on the weekends.
So to get there, there's the decision to make there, those mindset shifts that Jennifer talked about, but then there's actually building the skill level to be able to execute on it and do it. So I want to hear from all of you, because you each, even in your different business models, you have your presentation. And in order to win in such a competitive market, or in order to share such a different idea that the home seller might not be accustomed to, like such as what the two of you gentlemen are sharing with them, we have to hone in our skill level. I know I spent an ungodly amount of time honing in my listing presentation. And to this day, we still audit it, change it, tweak it, make sure it's relevant for today. And we'll go through a lot of skill-based training. What have you done, Dan, in order to get your skill level up to where you know you can walk into anybody's living room and capture their attention, if not get their business?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really just been kind of keeping an eye on what the consumer demand really is. Take a picture of today. I think a consumer, they have instant data. They really like information quickly. So in our world, both Kyle and I, being an instant offer and giving cash right away at the table is pretty important to these people, but it's a different mindset. It's untraditional. They're not used to it. And so we're really having to sell ourselves. I mean, especially when I came into the market as a buyer, in November we started our fund in Phoenix. We hadn't bought a home in Phoenix. And so to get to someone's table and now tell them, hey, I'm a cash buyer, I'm not proven yet, but I'm going to close on your home untraditionally, and I'm going to pay fair market value for it. That was a different mindset.
So I bet that when you get to their kitchen table and you go through whatever it is you go through, they say to themselves, holy crap, this guy's sharp. What did you have to go through to get there, right? Like, what did you have to go through? What I want to share with the audience is, what do they have to be doing at home? What do they have to be doing in front of the mirror? What do they have to be doing with their team members or their title partners, their lenders, and from a role play practice perspective, in order to get sharp enough to give them the impact that you likely do give them when you show up at that kitchen table?
Yeah, I think it's sharing kind of the whole package. Really understanding the market, understanding statistics in the market. Here we've got really good data in the Cromford report. I know our title partners have a ton of really good data. So we heavily rely on data when we're at the table.
So you study the data, you make sure you're a data expert.
Right, and so we walk in the door with data, backing up every fact, anything we're giving them. It's really data driven for us.
Awesome, okay, so you're gonna spend a lot of time before you actually show up to the game, really making sure you understand the data. How about you, Jennifer? I would imagine that your listing presentation, if I was to sit in on it today versus a few years back, you're a different person.
Yeah.
What kind of practice behind the scenes did you go through that anybody that wants to reach that kind of level of play needs to go through to get there?
And I know you said you change your listing presentation from time to time. I feel like I have to do that a lot more often because we do have disruptors in our market now. So I'm going into houses. I need to know this estimate. I might not agree with it, but homeowners put a lot of value into that. I need to know if they're talking to, my two friends here. So, and also provide them other strategies, including them, because sometimes my job with working with the seller is to work with Open Door, and we work with you on several. I've worked with you on several. I also building up our value and our unique selling proposition. I like to talk about all the objections. Who are you talking to? Are you working with a family or friend? Are you going to pick an agent that promises you the highest sales price? I really talk to them about who we are and the benefit to them. And it's not about number one, oh, this great video, this great social media. It's what the benefit to them it is in everything I talk to them about.
Tyler, from a preparation standpoint, tell us about what it looks like, right? Because, again, LeBron James, for example, looks brilliant on the court, but what most of us don't appreciate is the fact that he just worked his ass off so much, well before any of us actually saw him on screen. So what kind of preparation are you going through to get business done when you actually get to the table?
Yeah, and just to clarify, I was not born inside of Open Doors. I have been a traditional agent before, so I very much can relate to this. There's two main factors, right? One is sort of the content you're bringing with you in your listing presentations. I actually will study listing presentations. Most of yours are somewhat available online in various sources. Keeping your content from the presentation at 15 minutes. I've interviewed sellers and gone on listing appointments, and they go, the other agent made us sit through 60, 70, 90 minutes of all of the things, and most people are putting the same content out. So your listing, if the seller's interviewing 3 listing agents, 85% of the content is going to be the same, right? Your testimonials, your syndication pipelines, et cetera, they're all the same. In the presentation, your first job is to become friends in the first 10 minutes, right? So my strategy was always I'm not even going to really talk about the house or the transaction until I have fully connected to this person as a human. People hire their friends, right? So establish that trust on a personal level and then be able to talk to the market. So you should be able to know exactly what is happening in that market and where they want to go and what their motivation is. Are they a seller who's looking to buy? What is their sort of context? And then how is what's going on in the market going to impact their decision? And you need to be able to use that to leverage yourself against the others who they may be interviewing.
That's 100% right in that what I love about what I heard you say is you're going in purposefully, trying to accomplish goal A. Yours is to connect with them and then move on to the next piece of that conversation. I think you also, to some degree, need to understand who you are, right? I know that I'm not the type of person that walks into someone's living room and becomes best friends with them. Just not. I'm a very acquired taste. It takes weeks to just sort of get to like me. But what I do know I can do, and this is what I just mean by understanding who you are, is that there are different types of rapport. There's rapport that's built by just, noticing they have a Phoenix Suns jersey on the wall and then you talk about basketball. There's also rapport that's built by immediately showing up as an authority, showing up sharp as a tack, and enthusiastic about what the job that's going to be done, and building rapport through what I believe they most want, which is somebody who's going to understand their market, get their home sold, take control of what's going on, and get them to the promised land, which is a successful sale. You, of course, have to connect and gather information along the way, but I do believe you have to understand who you are, and if you're more like me and not so the gregarious type, then you need to make those subtle adjustments. But rapport is certainly built through being a professional. Ultimately, what they're truly, truly looking for. And we will get to audience questions in a moment. I actually want to come back to Tyler. Tell me that you see, I can imagine the stories you hear from people. Some of them you're probably the first person they speak to, but some of them I have to think you show up and they're like, Tyler, thank God you're here. Give me the offer, because I talked to this person, that one. They all just say the same thing. Just what will you give me? What help would you give the agents? What recommendations would you give the agents so that they can help their listing presentations evolve? And most importantly, find a differentiated voice, which isn't that what listing is all about. It's about differentiation. That's what business is all about. It's about differentiation. What advice would you give them to help them evolve that listing presentation?
Yeah, your job as an agent is to provide all opportunities to success. Right? So whether it's listing the home traditionally, whether it's providing an offer from a Wall Street backed investor or somebody like us, an iBuyer, if you want to go down that route, you should know all the players in your marketplace. And I'm not your competition, right? I'm your buyer. So as an agent, as long as you are procuring us as a buyer, you're fine. Right? You're doing your fiduciary duty. So being able to show multiple paths to success for a homeowner based on the ultimate problem they're trying to solve, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, as long as the decisions you make in building your business and your strategy is always geared from servicing the customer and servicing the client, and not servicing yourself, you're going to be just fine at the end of the day. And we know listings are king, but listings don't all look the same now, right? A listing doesn't even have to hit the market. You can have that home sold in 24 hours, and your seller client who also is looking to buy, you can go out and start focusing on that same day or that next day, and decrease your cycle time, do more transactions per year, service more customers per year, make more money per year. So really it's just all about understanding your market, knowing anybody and everybody within your market, and figuring out which seller situation and type is that buyer going to be a good fit for, and being able to provide multiple options for each person you come in contact with.
Now, Kyle, I know your team is heavy into training, role play. I think you even have some organized role play, and there must be some correlation between that and the accomplishment I shared with the audience, being the first in San Diego's history to be #1 volume and sides. So it's not that you're just springing off a few $20 million deals and hitting the beach, right? You're doing a lot of business. Take us through the training, role play, preparation that your team goes through, that if anybody in the room wants to emulate an A training program, that they might be able to take something back to the office with them.
Yeah, for sure. First, I love you called yourself an acquired taste. We got that on video. I want that clip. I think that's awesome. I think it's really good. I love it. So the thing that I see way too often in this industry is everybody is way too focused on generating more leads. Well, where can I get more leads? Oh, can I buy them here? Can I buy them there? Can I do this? Can I do that? There's not enough focus on what to do once you actually generate those leads. And one of the things you can think about is, the national average of lead conversion is, honestly, it's 1% for internet leads. If you could actually shift your focus from the lead generation to the lead conversion and just increase that conversion rate by 1%, just increasing your conversion rate by 1% seems like such a small number, right? But what did you just do? If you just went from 1% conversion rate to a 2% conversion rate, you just doubled your conversion rate and just doubled the amount of money that you're bringing home to your family, or, depending on your lifestyle, or decrease the amount of work by 50% that you have to put into it. So you really need to focus 10 times as much energy on lead conversion as you do on lead generation. Quit worrying about generating more leads. You need to know what to do with the leads before you generate them. So people are putting the cart before the horse. If you think about the Cardinals, for example, those guys are already in training camp practicing today. And they practice an average of 2,000 to 3,000 hours a year, so that for 16 hours of game time, they can be on point. So they put 2,000 or 3,000 hours of work in for 16 hours of game time. So who are we to bitch about 30 minutes of role play a day when these guys are putting in 2,000 or 3,000 hours for 16 hours of time on the field? We need to take what those guys are doing and implement some of that in our real estate business. So one of the things that we do at our office, we role play on the phone twice a day. We give 2 options for our agents, our early risers and our late risers. So we have 30 minutes of role play every day. Agents either get on at 8:30 or 10:30. We do 30 minutes a day of that. We also do our presentation role play every single week in the office. Because part of it is, yes, you have to generate the lead. Then you've got to know what to say to that lead on the phone to get them to show up to the appointment. But then you actually need to know what to do at that appointment. People show up to the appointment and they crap the bed. They don't know what to do. They're so excited they got this lead, they got this appointment, then they show up and they're completely lost from the second that door opens. So you need to not only generate leads, you need to know how to convert those leads to appointments, and most importantly, you need to know what to do when you show up to that appointment. So if you guys aren't putting even a fraction of the time in that the Arizona Cardinals are putting in, then you shouldn't expect to even make a fraction of what those guys are making, because you're not putting in the kind of effort that those guys are. So you need to shift your focus into prepping so that when you do show up to the appointment, no matter what that person says to you, you know exactly how to react. If you think about Peyton Manning, he was not the most physically gifted quarterback ever in the NFL. He looked like a newborn giraffe trying to run. He was terrible. But when the other team lined up on the field, he knew exactly what they were going to do because he had watched so much video, he had studied it, he had practiced it so many times that he knew what to do to handle that objection, so to speak, and call the right play that was going to get his guy open. So we need to do that same thing in our business.
That was awesome, and it gave me chills because here's a realization I just had in hearing that. NFL level earnings are available to every one of us in the room. Isn't that the truth? NFL level earnings are available to any one of us. Now let me edit my prior statement. Are available to any one of us that are willing to put in the work, the preparation, the sweat, the blood, the tears, all the stuff that nobody sees and that no one's going to cheer for you on Facebook. Those of us that are willing to do that, NFL level earnings are available. Dan, let's go to you. What do you think? Again, these are 600 something transactions this year alone, so you hear a lot of war stories from home sellers.
Yep.
What do you think are the most important things, or maybe the most important things right now to consumers in this market based on your experience? Where are their pain points? And what really matters? When you tear all the stuff away, what really matters to them?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. So first of all, it seems that the sellers we're meeting with today, they have a lot more information than they've ever had at their fingertips before. So when we walk in the door, we're no longer telling them what their home value is. They kind of know that going into the space. And then the key for us is trying to figure out how to get them over that finish line. And just understanding what their needs, what their wants are, and things like that. We find that a lot of times we'll go meet with a seller, and they have, met with a traditional agent in our market here, and in our space, they've said, okay, the iBuyer or this cash buyer or these guys, this is the problem with them. This is why you don't want to work with them, and that's actually motivated them to call us. So we're finding that happens quite a bit now, where agents are going out, traditional agents are going out, and they're saying, well, Venture, Open Door, OfferPad is negatively impacting the market, and this is why. Well, now we are the disruptor, and so that's why the consumer now is interested in what we're doing, and so they're calling us. So when you guys are doing that, you're actually helping us.
So, well, Jennifer, then you're that traditional agent that he's talking about. What have you done with the presence of what you just called minutes ago disruptors? What are you doing to enhance your value proposition at that kitchen table?
Well, I buy houses too.
So let's just hold on, because I didn't know that. So you buy houses too. Was that something you already had going, or is that a new offering based on the need to compete?
That's where I started out my real estate career, and then within the last
you have a history in it.
Yeah. So within the last year, I started more intentionally prospecting for listings that would I can buy. And sometimes it's great. I don't have to compete with them. I just won one over you because you weren't in their buy box. It was an acre of land, and so I was able to buy that house. But one thing I do is I don't, instead of talking negatively about them, I'm just going to say, hey, I'll show you all of our options. And if it's Open Door, we'll work with you on Open Door. We will submit their listings to your platform to see if you get a better offer. So one thing you will have with me is I'll show you all your options. I'm not just going to give you one. I'm going to tell you what I believe your house will sell for in this market. I will shop it to all of the investors I work with, including myself, and you at the end of the day have all the options available to you. You're not just getting one offer and that is the only option.
Do you feel like agents try to pretend like they don't exist? And
Some, yeah.
so your approach is to just acknowledge up front what the seller's probably and likely thinking about anyway?
Yeah, I see a lot of agents complaining about the disruptors. I see a lot of agents complain. I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard agents complain about Zillow throughout the years. I love Zillow. I made a lot of money from Zillow. I know what their shortcomings are, so when I meet with a client, I let them know what my value is against Zillow. But yeah, instead of talking negatively about them, just knowing how I can work with them. And at the end of the day, you really should be looking at what is best for my client. Or I know that might not even be your client, maybe just prospect, but what is best for them? And I try, the one I had lost when we worked with you, for instance, was a $195,000 house that you offered $195,000 for. Well, I'm not going to buy that for $195,000, but we were able to work with them. We got, a client that will now give us referrals. They love that they had some representation. So sometimes it's working with our disruptors and then upping our value proposition.
And just to lay out some context here quickly, you didn't show up this morning? Okay, so you've been in business here how long?
We're coming
at a high level in Phoenix, Scottsdale, how long?
3 years.
3 years. Your business did what in the last 24 months and 12 months?
100%.
100%, and
Growth.
then another 100. So you've doubled year over year.
Mm-hmm.
With them in town. What I love about you is you organized a lot of what's going on here today, along with our wonderful partners and sponsors at Fidelity and at Guild, and you invited them here.
Mm-hmm.
So you're moving head first into it and finding out what is the best way to leverage their platforms, which ultimately can be seen as platforms to enhance your own business, which has not suffered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about your messaging then. How have you then refined, as your market has certainly changed, how have you refined your message to your consumer, your message to your market to grow your business in this environment?
Well, we do guarantee the sale of their house. So, sometimes it's going to be an investor we sell it to, sometimes it's going to be ours, sometimes it's just selling it for top dollar. But we do put it in writing that we give them an offer, right then if they want to participate in the program, we are providing an offer. So we do provide an offer. We do offer instant offer, so we will get an offer as well within 24 hours.
So you're guaranteeing to sell their home. Anybody, take me through that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
You're guaranteeing to sell their home. Anyone that, if you show up at a listing appointment, they already have an offer from you or one of your investors.
Yeah, well, if they choose to participate, 90% of my clients that we meet that we end up taking their listings, they want top dollar. But there is a good 10%, I would say, that don't want the hassle. They want the certainty. Sometimes we're working with a buyer, and a lot of buyers agents in the room. A lot of your sellers are coming to you. They come to you first as a buyer. They're like, we want to buy this house, but our house isn't even on the market. How can we make that happen? So just being able to provide that option for them, like, yes, you can buy that house. This is how we're going to make it happen. That would be the messaging.
So you're growing your business, refining your messaging right now through essentially what I would call risk reversal. All right, is anyone familiar with that term, risk reversal? Or anyone not? Because if you study risk reversal, it's one of the most powerful things we can bring to any one of our businesses. Right? I'm much like you. I do a guaranteed home sale. I offer a minute-to-minute listing agreement. Essentially, what are the fears that our clients have? Their fears are not having the home sell. Well, what if we could find a way to guarantee that? Their fears are being stuck in a listing agreement with an agent that doesn't perform, they don't like, or doesn't show up, doesn't fulfill their promises. What if we could remove that fear by giving them the ability to go out of the listing agreement at any time without reason, for any reason and without penalty? Which, just to insert my own point of view, if you're not already doing that, that's kind of crazy, I just say. Like holding people hostage to earn a $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 commission and then having them talk poorly about you for the rest of their lives is really a strange way to grow a business. So there are already those of you in the audience that are allowing that unhappy person out. You just get zero marketing benefit out of it because you don't lead with it. And so there are ways of refining your message, such as what you're doing. Kyle, you're taking a different approach. You're growing very much through video. Take us through some of your top video strategies that are helping you get more listings.
Yeah, first, I'm jealous you guys have these two here in your market. I wish we had them in San Diego, because working with a typical seller is this moving target that's all over the place. These guys, or your buyer, these guys give you a stationary target. They give you what we refer to as a buy box, and they say, if you can find me something that fits in this box, I will buy it. To have that is huge. Like, I would love to have these guys in my market. They won't come because it's too risky for them, but I would love to have them, because if you're not selling enough homes, you want to sell more, meet with these guys. Find out what that buy box is. I told them I would hire an agent just to work for them. That all they would do is just go out there and find deals that fit within their buy box.
That's awesome.
Because their buy box is stationary. They're telling you what they want. Just go find it and then hand it to them, and then you get paid. Like, that's not normal in our business. Our business is way more fluid than that. So take advantage of the fact that you have these guys. They're not going anywhere. So you can bitch and moan about them all day long. They're not going to disappear. They're here. So figure out how to make money working with them as opposed to bitching about them. It's not going to get you any further in your career. So I just want to get that, like, I'm super jealous you guys have this, so please take advantage of them. As far as video is king for us. Google, I went to a class they did recently, and according to Google, 80% of the content that we consume by 2019 will be video. If you go through your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed or anything right now, it's already close to that. They also said that 3.3 billion hours a month of video are getting watched on YouTube. That's insane. That's where the attention is in our society today. Nobody wants to read anything anymore. They just want to watch a video. And some people want to actually watch it, and some people want to just hit play and listen to your video playing in the background. But we know that the attention is on video right now, so that's where we need to be. Now, there's a lot of different ways to go about video. One of the ways that's worked best for us is to do the opposite of what every other realtor does, which most realtors get on and are like, I'm here at this beautiful listing. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and it's 1,500 square feet. Like, they can freaking read. Like, they know that already. They don't need you to tell them that. Like, do something where you're actually adding value for the consumer. And don't go on there like, I'm number one, I'm the best, use me, buy, sell. Like, you're just like everybody else, so do something different. So what we did 3.5 years ago, we hired a full-time video guy. And now we have an entire media team in our office because we dove in head first. We saw this coming, and the good thing is now we've got millions and millions of views on Facebook, hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube from all the video stuff that we're doing. But the one by far that's the most effective for us, Gary Vaynerchuk refers to it as being the digital mayor of your community, which is just going out there and interviewing people within your community, whether it be the schools, the businesses, the parks, people that run the parks, anything like that, doing things to show people what the community is all about. So when we first started out with this, we came out with a series called Santee Saturdays. Santee is the city that I live in. And we just went around and interviewed the local business owners. We did anything from the bakery to the coffee shop to the personal trainer to the insurance guy. And it was super powerful because a lot of things happen. One, I got relationships with every single business owner in my community. Business owners are typically the people, one, that have the most money, and two, the people that have the most connections. So I got a ton of amazing relationships from it. The biggest listing I've ever had in my entire career came from interviewing the local senior community. That was the worst video ever. It was the most boring interview ever, but it got me a relationship that I didn't have before that resulted in a $4 million listing. That's huge. In addition to building relationships, you're putting out content in front of people that they actually care about. So you're going and showing them the coffee shop that they've never been to and what makes that coffee shop unique. You're telling about the chiropractor that's been in business for 57 years and offers free adjustments for the military and all that stuff. So you're giving them things they didn't know about. You're driving business over to these businesses, and you're getting in front of people on a regular basis. It's digital farming. Now, you could go and spend tens of thousands of dollars a month in mail, but this is a different way of doing it that most people aren't doing. It's been so effective that I got nominated to be Person of the Year in my entire city because of these videos, because of the exposure that we've given to these businesses within our community and the value that we've provided. And it's made it to the point where I'm a local celebrity in my area, where anywhere I go, people recognize me. And the most important thing is I'm already in rapport with people from the second I meet them. Because part of sales is know me, like me, and trust me. Well, they know me because they've seen my videos. They like me because I'm providing them content. And they trust me because they see I'm tied into the community. So when I meet somebody at an open house or I show up to a listing appointment, we're in rapport from the second I walk in that door. That's been massive in my business over the last few years, to where we become the biggest brand in our city by a mile because of using video.
Very good. Isn't that good stuff? So there's a few things that we all might be able to take with us. I might be able to take with me, and we can implement this coming quarter.
You're an acquired taste, I don't know.
What's that?
You're an acquired taste. Maybe have somebody else from your team do it.
I'm under-promising, Kyle. And then, what that all boils down to, or the word that I keep hearing throughout much of what's been shared with us, is differentiation. Okay? And we're going to talk about commission pressure, which I know your market's feeling. Our market has felt for years. Yours is feeling it more based on some of what's going on in the investor world, the Silicon Valley money, the Wall Street money. Ours is feeling it based on price point. And when you have our price points, anybody will go get a license just to sell a house. Well, while they're irrelevant in and of, like, on their own, selling 1 or 2 or 3 houses a year, when you add up the 10,000 or so agents doing that, it's a big chunk of our market, and it creates big commission pressures. So how do we, as agents, separate from the pack? Because ultimately, if you don't answer that question, your business will not change. There's, in my market, I'll just use it as an example, there's the 22,000 agents, all saying the same thing, looking alike, sounding the same. I bet it's the same here too. You ever heard, I'll sell your home in the shortest amount of time for the most the market can bear? Like, who here has that tattoo on their arm? Because in California, it's required before they give you your license. You actually have to repeat that about 100 times and tattoo it, and then you can go and sell houses. Well, when every agent's saying the same thing, and you're saying the same thing, I think it was you, Tyler, you said about 85% of any listing presentation that you're going against, they're all maybe a more eloquent version, less eloquent version, maybe another trinket or one trinket less version of the same. So differentiation comes from actually sitting back and thinking and working on your business to purposefully create that differentiation. Jennifer found her guaranteed sale. Open Door and Dan's company, give me your name, company name again. Venture and Open Door have found their point of differentiation. But if you're looking around at the table of everyone that you're sitting with right now and you don't know exactly why you're different from them other than that you just feel like you're better, your business is going to have a very difficult time making that leap. Here's the framework that we use to find differentiation in any one aspect of our business, whether it be our listing presentation, the way we're going to present, the way our transaction team will help them work through the rest of the transaction so that the agent isn't bogged down with the paperwork. Any aspect of it, the way we show houses, anything. You first have to spend time really thinking about what is it that they all do. Because they all do something, they being all of the other agents. They all do something. If you've read Blue Ocean Strategy, you understand that there are what we call blue oceans and red oceans. And they all live, especially in real estate, a highly commoditized business more and more. It's becoming very commoditized, which is where that commission pressure comes from. Which is why an Open Door can just from their satellite say, this is what that house is worth. It's because we're all swimming in red oceans, meaning bloody waters, highly competitive, moving toward commoditization. You have to think about what is it they all promise. Well, they all say that they'll say this. They'll say they'll sell it in the fastest amount of time the most the market can bear. This is how they show homes. This is how they list houses. They put the sign up. They take the photos. They start showing. Here's what showings feel like traditionally. You could figure out does everyone do at the end of the day, because it's like 90-something% all the same. And then you spend time thinking about what the pain points are that are created for the consumer by what they all do. By the way, there's pain points to everything. Even my differentiated strategy has other pain points, right? But when they all do something 90-something% alike, and there are pain points that are 90-something% the same, and you actually sit through and define them, and then shift to step 3, which is to create a differentiated process that answers the pain. Mr. Seller, because here's what we see that listings look like in our market. This is what sellers will go through. This is the experience they have. Remember last time you sold your house? It was exactly like this, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Great. Well, you remember these discomforts. It's because of that we've created what we call, and now name it, trademark it. Name your process and trademark it. For us, it's our trademark 5-day blitz as an example. Name your process and trademark it. Here's why. By the way, trademarking it really means nothing other than you pay a fee to whoever, your state or the federal government. But how many people in the room own a trademark? Okay, 3. A trademark related to their real estate business. Some hands went down. We have 3 or 4, 5. So all of a sudden in a room of 120 something or whatever it is, we have 5 people that can show up to an appointment and say, that's what they all do. Here are the pain points. Because of that, I've created this process. Here's the name, and it's my trademarked process. Now, what does that mean? It just means you paid a fee. To the consumer, it's the first person out of the 3 or 4 agents that they interviewed that actually had a trademarked process. Just the fact we have a process, my God, differentiates us from the average agent. So what do they all do? What are the pain points? And create a differentiated strategy. Because of that, I do step 1, step 2, step 3. It's my trademark process called X. And now is when we can brag. Because so many of us lead into our listing presentations with our brag. Well, nice to meet you, Mr. Seller. I'm from RE/MAX. Here's what RE/MAX has done. Here's what RE/MAX has sold. Here's who I am. Here's how many things I have. Here's where I rank. All right, now let's talk about your home, and we're going to just say the same thing everyone else says here also. No. It's what they do, the pain points, your differentiated strategy, which is named and trademarked. And because of that, Mr. Sellers, why we've been recognized by the Wall Street Journal. Because of that, Mr. Sellers, why we've become the top 1% of Gilbert Realtors, or whatever it might be. It's because of your understanding of what goes on in the pain and how you've solved it that you do have a brag you can share. It's a much more elegant way to brag and a much more relevant way to brag. They care now. They didn't care at all when you started talking. They just wanted you to get through it already. Does that make sense? That's how we think through everything in our business to create a differentiated voice. That's going to become increasingly important with the commission pressure that we're all facing. So let's discuss commission pressure. A couple of you are applying the pressure, and and some of us are having to work through and survive that pressure. First, actually, I want to start with you, Dan. How important, commission, in what you're offering consumers? And by the way, this is not a leading question. I have no idea, is it really important, very little important? I'd like to know first off, how do you even treat commission in your world, and how important is it at the end of the day versus other value you're providing?
Yeah, so we don't, it's a very minimal factor in our model to buy a home. So, if I'm factoring a commission, it basically is irrelevant in the deal. We offer, when we go out to meet a seller directly, we offer to, our buyer will pay us, so that it's a no-fee deal. So they walk into the deal, they don't pay us any fees.
And how much of a relief is that? How much is commission on the seller's mind? is what I'm trying to figure out.
It seems that at least the consumers that we're meeting with, that's what they're interested in.
They do
That's
have
why
interest there.
they're calling us, because they've maybe had a bad experience, or they've have a bad taste with an agent and feel like maybe they're making too much money or something along those lines. So we've tried that. We've also, if we don't buy the home, we also have a strategy that we work with one of our partners who's actually here today, where we will list the home with no commission. And so I actually will flip the commission onto the buyer's side. So I'll charge the buyer a premium, almost like an auction type setting. So the buyer will pay a 5% buyer's premium at close. And so now I'm walking in the door with the seller and saying, I'm doing all these things that the listing agent would normally do, but I'm going to do it for free. And I can sell your home for more money, and this is why. And so when we share that with them, typically we're getting most of those as well.
How much does commission relief, I suppose, play in? Well, you come from the traditional world, and now you're in this world. So how top of mind is commission and why someone ends up doing business with Open Door? Or is it actually, are they actually finding value in other areas and the commission is just a nice to have?
Yeah, so with, and this will go into a little bit of our fee structure. So our average fee that a seller pays in Phoenix is between 6 and 6.5%. Similar to a commission that co-broke is part of that. So 3% of that fee that the seller is paying to us when they sell to us is held for the buyer's agent who's going to bring the end buyer. So when you're looking at that remainder 3% that would typically go to a listing agent for those services, they're able to pay that same amount of money to us to completely avoid the entire listing experience. It's sort of like the inconvenience while also getting control over the timeline for when they close that home, being able to cancel at any point, penalty-free all the way up to the day of close for any reason or no reason. So for us, and I'll give you a couple perspectives on it. Looking at from us to the consumer, it's now an apples to apples sort of comparison in terms of the cost of doing business with somebody like us, whose average fee has been cut in half over the last 2 years. When we came into the market really in 2016, and our average fee was around 10 to 10.5%. We really were a niche seller, somebody who really valued the certainty of execution and the speed of the transaction. Now that our fees have come down, that's why you see we have such significant market share at this point, because we are a first option. A significant number of new listings that come on the market, I've already talked to them first. And those are just people that said no to us, right? So our reach is becoming tremendous in terms of a source of value, because we're Zillow and his estimate is just sort of a blind estimation. We're putting checks behind those valuations. In terms of the market, if I'm looking at a traditional agent sense, commission compression is sort of, I do think that is sort of a reality, but in 2018, the cost of doing business shouldn't be the same as in the 1900s, right? With technology and everything else, you should be able to operate more efficiently and be able to provide a cheaper service while maintaining your margin. So even if your total is 6% and you're able to push that down to 5.5%, you're able to pass that savings on to your customer. There are ways to do more business and faster business by decreasing cycle times and everything else, right? You should have product differentiation. You should have a variable rate commission. You should be able to provide an opportunity to a seller where there is an opportunity for them to pay less commission for whatever sort of model you pick and trademark, right? I sat with an agent in Raleigh, his name's Stephen Norris, who has a 7% program. I said, well, how do you do that? He said, well, yeah, for 7%, but you're getting a professional steam cleaning. You're getting your house pressure washed. I'm providing real valuable services to make that home more marketable and allowing the seller who may not have that 1% cash on hand to pay for it up front, they can pay it at the closing table. So those are real value propositions where you should be able to have a spectrum of opportunities for your sellers based on the value of service that they want.
I heard you say variable commission structure. Would you give us 30 seconds of definition behind that?
Yep, perfect example. Right, we partner with agents all across Phoenix and several other markets. Most of them who are providing open door offers within 24 hours of getting that listing agreement signed. And what they're saying is they're going to be able to come back to the seller and say, look, if you want to list with me, I charge, say a 6% commission. Here's all of the services you get out of that and that structure and that experience. I also have gone out and I've gotten offers from all the buyers I know in the market. And here's an offer from Opendoor, and if you're willing to take that, I'm actually willing to fully represent you in this transaction, and for that, I'm gonna reduce my commission from 6% all the way down to 1%, right? Because remember that co-broke is already coming to us through fees, so that's sort of a net wash. From there, we will also pay 1% contribution on behalf of that seller's commission to you, right? So you can still get a 2 to 3% capture on that listing without ever having to list the property. You're able to provide a value to a seller. I don't need sellers to remember me, right? I want sellers to remember you. I want them to go out and say, yeah, my agent gave me all the options, like provided great service, really took care of us, and as long as they're coming back to you and you're utilizing Opendoor as a buyer, like that's a nice ecosystem that we've created there. And so we're willing to pay 1% for any of those homes that come to us with our agent partners prior to the MLS because we want to be able to pass that savings on to the seller. Like we are here, we are customer driven. More than anybody has ever been in this market before, which is why you're seeing such success. And so by like driving always towards that goal and always making a decision for the customer, we want to leverage agents. Like you are our biggest customer, right? And you are our most frequent customer. So I spend my days trying to figure out what are more ways that I can provide value to you that you can then give to your client.
A lot to think about there. A lot to think about there. And we use what we call a flexible commission structure. And we have to be careful as business people, we have to be careful not to become something that you don't want to then have to unwind or that becomes difficult to unwind. Becoming a discount agent, giving yourself that label, which is why we've taken on what we call a flexible commission structure. That flexible commission structure, depending on where that buyer's coming from, depending on what happened, it could be 6%, it could be 4.5%, it could be 2%, or it could be 0. And I'm happy to go through that here in a moment. If you guys want to go through that, we're going to get through a little bit more of this, I guess what I would call high level, how are we thinking about our business aspect of what we're doing here, and then we're going to really dive in a moment on what does that pre-listing package look like? What are you actually emailing out following the listing appointment? We're going to get down to that level, and I'm happy to share with you our flexible commission structure. What's our time? Till end? Got it. So we're at 20 minutes. Good. Well then, since that's the case, Kyle, I'm going to shift gears with you. Online reviews have driven a great degree of your business. You have a few hundred 5-star, I forget what the number is, 300 more or more? 512 5-star reviews on Zillow's platform. So how do you drive the consumer to actually leave that review? What are the steps? Like if someone wanted to create a review system that we have a client, we close a deal, we get a review, give them that system they could take home with them.
For sure. The biggest mistake is everybody does the exact same thing, which is waits till the transaction's closed to ask for a review. Biggest mistake people make when it comes to asking for reviews. Like sales, you close early and often. You should close early and often when it comes to those reviews. And you should capitalize on the high points of the transaction. We all know that we can only control a very small piece of the transactions. There's a lot of other variables between lenders and inspections and appraisals and escrow and title and all this other stuff that happens. We don't control all of that. And sometimes those guys make mistakes that leave a sour taste in our client's mouth, and it becomes a negative reflection on us. And you're not going to get a review when that kind of stuff happens. So you need to capitalize on the high points of the transaction. And what we do is we actually incentivize our transaction coordinators. Part of their pay structure is based on how many reviews they get about the agents that are part of our team. And Zillow actually recently changed their pay structure to be the same kind of thing. So instead of being paid on how many transactions our TCs close, they're paid on how many reviews we get, which is a totally different way of doing things. So they're very much incentivized to get these reviews. What's the happiest part of the transaction? The day the offer is accepted. Whether it's the buyer or the seller, that's almost always the highest point of the transaction. Ask for it then. What's another high point of the transaction, especially for sellers, is when the contingencies are removed. Seller's like, awesome, this thing's moving forward. Ask for them again when contingencies are removed. When the loan funds and it starts to become a reality, ask for them again. When it closes, ask again. And then wait a little while, because when they first close and they start moving, it's tough, right? They're in between places and they're packing and unpacking. Ask them, another 30 days down the road after the dust has settled a little bit. But hit them early and often for those reviews. Don't just do it one time. And definitely don't do it just after close. If you're only going to do it one time, do it at the point of offer acceptance, because that's almost always the high point. Who knows what's going to happen from the transaction from there? And in all honesty, 25% of transactions probably fall out. I made that number up, but it's probably close to that. 25% of the time, the transaction falls apart. Well, if you already got the review, at least you got that if you didn't make a commission. So make sure that you get that from there. Also, spread your reviews around. Like Zillow is obviously the king. So get a lot of reviews on there, but pay attention to Yelp. Pay attention to Google reviews are super important right now, and Google doesn't do any filtering for the most part. Zillow doesn't do a whole lot of filtering. Yelp is the one that filters a lot. A little tip when it comes to Yelp, if you're sending your client a link to your page and telling them to review you on there, that review's not going to get seen. Yelp is smart enough to understand how the consumer came to their website before they wrote a review, just like we can track. Did they come from Zillow or did they come from pay-per-click? If Yelp sees they went to a direct link to your website, Yelp knows you asked for that review, and as a result is going to bury it. You need to have them exhibit standard behavior of what anybody would do when they're writing a review, which is go to yelp.com, type in the business name, find it, and then click the write a review. You will increase the amount of reviews that show on Yelp significantly just by making that one subtle little change. So stop sending people the direct link to your Yelp page, because no consumer goes on there and types yelp.com/whistle-realty- blah, blah, all that crap. Nobody does that. Yelp knows that, so don't do that. So be conscious of that with Yelp. Spread your reviews around, and your reviews are huge because no matter what you think, your consumers are researching you before you walk in that door. And if you type your name in, Zillow and Yelp are going to be probably 2 of the top 5 results when you type your name in on Google. Well, if people are researching you and they land on one of those sites, you want them to find something that's going to be favorable. So make sure that you've got reviews on there. Understand it's okay to have bad reviews. Bad reviews are almost your biggest opportunity. I actually like 1-star reviews because it gives me an opportunity to truly be a salesperson and respond to it in the right way. And I learned a huge lesson from Yelp the first time I got a bad review, because you're pissed off. Like, that's naturally what happens. And you go to write a response to a review on Yelp, and it's like, take some time, think about it, breathe a little bit, and then you're like, screw this guy, send it. And they're like, we're going to give you another opportunity. Are you sure you want to post this response? Before you post this response, think about it. Maybe talk to a friend or two. Like, they warn you repeatedly, because once you post that response, it's there. It's not going away. So that was a huge learning lesson, both for responding to reviews and in business in general. When you get pissed off, sometimes better to sleep on it. That definitely helps out. But those responses are a huge opportunity, because people, when they're scrolling through your reviews, they're looking, they see 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and they see a 1-star. They read the 1-star every single time. They might breeze over some of the 5-star reviews, but they're going to stop at every 1-star review. And if all they see is a 1-star review with no response to it, that's bad, because now they only heard one perspective. And we all know that perspective a lot of times is their agent told them some BS about you, when in reality, they were the problem. But they just told their client something else so that they could put the blame on you and make you look bad. So now you have an opportunity to come in there and help people see the other side of the equation. So when you get those 1-star reviews, always write a response. Take a day or 2 before you write about them. If they are legitimately bad reviews, especially on Yelp, don't respond to them. First thing before that is send a message to Yelp and tell them, I've never worked with this person. I have no idea who the hell they are. Because once you respond to it, it's not going away. So if you do get those reviews from your competitors, because that happens, send it to Yelp and tell them it's a fake review first. If Yelp denies taking it down, then respond to it. That's a huge tip too. Because the second you respond, it's sticky, it's not going away.
And a nugget I picked up there, I don't know if you caught it, when he's talking about the way he compensates his transaction coordinator based on the review. Beneath that, the nugget I'm picking up is that we want to have compensation in alignment with the activities and results we expect out of the role. Oftentimes, and especially I find in our industry, we are misaligning compensation to what we actually want out of the person. Now, it's an example, we won't dive into it because this isn't about ISAs here necessarily right now, but just as an example, how many of us, or how many people out there will compensate their ISAs or inside sales agent, like appointment setters? They'll compensate, a common structure is small base and then say 5% of the closing commission. Well, what does that person have anything to do with the closing? What we want that person doing is setting appointments. So we compensate our ISAs on the appointment. Just for having set the appointment, we reward the activity and the behavior that we want more of. Aligning the two of those will help you get more out of your people. Pre-listing package. Because I'm really fascinated by the idea of, okay, we've done all the role play. We've sharpened our skills. We've got, we got the listing appointment. There's a lot there. But how can we focus on conversion? Because each of these areas of focus will improve your business. Can we get more listing appointments, but then can we sign more of the appointments we're going on? Pre-listing package is an effective tool. I'm curious, Jennifer, and we haven't discussed this, so for all I know, I don't know what you're doing here, but are you doing anything interesting in the pre-listing package area to help set you up with authority before you even show up at the door?
Yeah, we do several things, and before we did these, I
Thank
would
God,
go up
because,
on a...
if you hadn't, then that would have been awkward.
I would go up on a listing presentation and they'd be like, are you the HVAC tech? I don't know who you... So now we have a lot more branded appointments, but one thing we do, and this is just to keep the appointment, is to send your client or your prospect a calendar invite on Google. We do both hard copy and email, so we'll send them links to our Zillow to read our past reviews. We'll send them some samples to our marketing, little videos, and a lot of times they'll just watch that. They won't read anything we send. Other people, they'll go through every little single thing. We send them a nice little pretty box, but give them some popcorn, something to snack on while they're reading through this little package that we send them. A little bit about us, our background, some testimonials. Some of our past clients are like, yeah, use us, and we have references. So our more analytical types go through every little single thing in that package, and they know all of our stats before we get there. But even the fact that it arrives there and they could see that we've been putting that much effort to it gives us a lot more credibility as we walk in the door.
Cool. Which creates differentiation. Mm-hmm. And it creates authority. So I heard you say references, reviews, sales history, mm-hmm. I think is in there. And something to snack on. I had never heard that one. So that's interesting. And I love
the popcorn.
that. Hey, make, what 50 cents or whatever it costs you, you throw it in there. I love that. Why don't you blow up this bag of popcorn while you go through the material? It's important that you go through this before Tuesday's appointment at 3. It will help shorten your questions or so we can focus on the sale of your house, right? Yeah. Does the pre-listing package concept exist in your world, Dan and Tyler? You're sending anything out ahead of time so they're prepared for you?
A little bit. We send them, now that we actually have a base in the market and have had a bunch of successes here, we are sending our testimonials in advance of the listing appointment, but it's not as detailed as that.
Yeah, ours is a little different in terms of being able to sort of like what we now call like a progressive offer, where somebody's coming to our website. Like I said, we don't go to anybody; everybody comes to us, right? So they come in, they tell us about their home, in terms of the interior features and conditions of that home. We are then preparing an offer for them, or we can give them sort of a quick snapshot into sort of like the value of their home or what's happening in the community, and getting them to that point. Just like you, right? You have your nurturing leads, right? Who may be 6 months, a year, 2 years out from actually transacting, but that's like one of the most important parts of your funnel that you need to be feeding with valuable content. And so we're the same way in that we can give very accurate insights into what's happening in that home's value, so that as their timeline or as that price starts to increase, once they see where it gets to that magical number, they can then engage with us. And even when we present an offer directly to a homeowner or through an agent, We're showing the comps that we use. We're showing what the positive and negative adjustments were for the features in those comps. We show exactly like what the fees are up front. Like for us, transparency is key, and providing all of that information so there's no sort of unknown factors before they make any sort of commitment is what's important with that.
Very cool. Very cool. Yep. The pre-listing package, you don't have one, is one of the most simple things you can implement in your business literally today that will have you converting more of your listing appointments. If it's just you, then create a version of one. If it's just you and your business, create a version of one that is simple enough that you will actually be able to deliver on it every time that you ever have a listing appointment. If you have a staff, then you just lay out the expectations of what you want, and they're accountable to getting it done. I find that a first-class, like business-style envelope, overnighted, is effective. At the end of the day, it's kind of funny because I think as agents we try proving a lot, and rightfully so, to our consumer that we are a business, a professional, real business, and not just a person with a real estate license. And that overnighted FedEx-style business envelope communicates that message. We have a lot of the same type of content that you have. We also include a video card where it's literally like a booklet that you open. There's a screen. At the moment they open it, it's, "Hey, I'm Dan Beard," and then it's me speaking to them on a screen that's mailed to them. It's about differentiation and having a place of authority to speak from when you get to their homes. You speak very little about you and can put the focus on them. How about, there's a lot of conversation in our industry about pre-listing package, but what about after the appointment? Because not every appointment, unfortunately, results in a signed listing. So what about the appointments that we go on that are not signed? They're thinking about it, they're interviewing another 2 or 3 agents. What are we doing? And Kyle, I know you have some interesting things behind this. What are we doing to ensure that we get that listing signed once we've left their home? Or even sometimes, well, I guess this would be pre, but I know that what you're doing incorporates kind of a before and after, and the two mesh really well together.
Yeah. So we love video. One of the things we do when we set a listing appointment is we'll send them an email and just says, confirming your appointment, please click here to confirm your appointment. When they click that, it sends them to our page where there's a video, and now it's much like what he puts in his video book or what she emails out. The difference is the video is hosted on our page, and if you guys are familiar with retargeting or remarketing, what happens is the second they land on that page, it's going to put a cookie on their computer, and now I'm going to retarget the hell out of this person so that any website they go to for the next 7 days, anytime they go on Facebook, anytime they watch a video on YouTube, we're there. And we're hitting them when you set up retargeting, so you could say like, hey, if somebody goes to my site, show them something once a day for the next 6 months, or whatever the case may be. That's called frequency. So we max out the frequency because I literally want to be everywhere. Like I want to be unavoidable, like Trump, like you're just stuck there. I want to be everywhere that they go so they cannot avoid me. So any website they go on, any social media page, any YouTube video they go, they're going to see me. And we run that for a 7-day period. Usually our listing appointments are set 2 or 3 days out. So for the 2 or 3 days leading up from the time we set the appointment to the time I show up to the appointment, they've seen me everywhere. And from the time I go on the appointment for the next 3 or 4 or 5 days after that, they're going to see me everywhere, which is really huge because now you show up to that appointment, they're like, I didn't even know who you were. Now it seems like you're everywhere. That's insane what happens. And it's so freaking cheap to run retargeting. Second thing I think is really important is when I go on a listing appointment, as soon as I'm done with the appointment, I get in the car, I log every single note that I have from that meeting immediately. I don't wait till I get back to the office because something's going to happen. I'm not going to get to it. So I log all my notes immediately after the appointment. I also have thank you cards in my car. I write the thank you card while I'm still there in the street, fill out the thank you card. A key when you write your thank you cards is don't just say like, hey, thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity. We hope to work with you. Like, again, you're doing the same shit.
That didn't mean anything.
That's worthless. That's the same shit everybody else is doing. Tie into why, the motivation. What is it they want to do? Like we just met with a couple that they're retiring and they want to move to Portsmouth, New Hampshire to be with their kids and grandkids. Tie that into that thank you. So really appreciate the opportunity to meet. We're so excited to help you guys sell your home so you can retire and go live with Billy in Portsmouth and spend all that time with your grandkids. That goes so far beyond just a basic thank you card. The fact that you actually tied back into that motivation is really valuable. I have stamps in the car, and I just go to USPS.com, find the closest post box, and I drop it in the mail on my way out of the seller's house. So therefore, it's going to go to the same local post office. A lot of times, it's at their door the very next day, and that's super effective as well.
That's awesome. Did you guys pick that up? Because that's that's why I make a point out of spending time with people like Kyle. That's why everything that I've done in my career has been purposeful in being in a room with people like this on the stage. And what Kyle just shared with you, like that's some real ninja stuff right there, right? And if you caught that, there are ways for you, when you have a listing appointment coming, send them an email where they click on something that pops them onto your computer, where it drops what's called a cookie onto their computer. Write this down, send it to your digital guy. And all of a sudden, whether they're on weather.com, CNN.com, ESPN.com, Facebook, etc., they're seeing you. Who might they list with? That's awesome. Very, very cool stuff. So I think we became fairly clear, Tyler, as far as Open Door and how you're working with agents. And Jennifer spoke some about how she's worked with you. I'd love to get just as clear, Dan, as far as your company, how does venture actually benefit the agents and create a way for the two of you to work together? How can agents work with you to help more buyers and sellers today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a company, we're pretty small. We have 110 agents, and so in this market, that's not a giant company. And to get to the scale that we need to get to in this market, our buy box here is 4,000 homes in Phoenix. Sometime in March is kind of the goal. So in order to do that, we need all of you to help us. And so what we've done is we've worked with a lot of our title partners here in setting up strategies so that as soon as we close on a home in a certain neighborhood, the metrics are pretty much the same. We know that we could buy that same house or something similar in that neighborhood for about the same price. So what agents are using us for is they're going out, they're getting these lists from their title partners, they're cold calling, they're knocking doors, they're doing all the things that they normally would do, but it's targeted, and they're saying, hey, instead of, I'm a great listing agent and I think this is a great time to sell your home, they're saying, hey, I have an investor that's interested in your particular property. They just bought this particular property next door. Are you familiar with that one? You saw it close. They really want to buy your home too. So it's giving agents a lot of chances at the plate. They're getting up to bat. Whether we buy the home or not, it's almost irrelevant. But now they're adding value right away, and they're walking in the door with a value proposition right out of the gate.
Awesome. So, and to clarify here, something I learned before the panel: venture, buy and hold; Open Door, buy and sell. So you have two different models, and they both are looking to partner with and keep commission in the agent's pocket, according to what I'm hearing, right? So that's awesome. Thank you very much, by the way. This has been great. We're rounding out with last questions so that we could deliver everybody back home on time. And Jennifer, what advice, because you've, again, doubled your business year over year. You've been one of the fastest risers in the entire Arizona market, not just Scottsdale, Phoenix. What advice do you have for new agents that are looking to professionalize themselves, is some word I'm going to throw into it, or differentiate themselves, or build authority in the marketplace so that they can be a listing agent, which is the greatest point of leverage in any one of our businesses that we can have in this industry?
So some of the worst advice I ever got was don't get a coach. You already know everything, just don't get a coach. Getting a real estate coach, that's when my business started to double. And one of the reasons why was the people I was aligning myself with. So I coach with Craig Proctor, and I'll actually be flying to Orlando in 2 days and becoming a certified coach myself. So I'm really excited about that, but aligning myself with the right people, vendors, Fidelity Title and Lizzie, I mean, truly, they have been partners with me in the business, always helping me in my business. So I rely heavily on them. I know Dan and Kyle I've been friends with a long time. Aligning myself with you guys, I'm a really good copycat. And so my own videographers in the back there, and Kyle, you've been really great. You're a video guys. They've been talking, FaceTiming. I think I'm going to be flying about to San Diego. I don't know if you know
Kind of
that.
look like each other.
But aligning myself with the right people. They say that if you're the smartest person in your room, you're in the wrong room. I usually feel like the dumbest person in the room, and I know that's what I'm intentionally putting myself around the big thinkers. So that I would be surrounding yourself by the right people is absolutely critical to grow your real estate business.
Cool. And again, I know you feel that way about your partners. It was actually at a Fidelity event where you and I first met.
Mm-hmm.
So serendipitous that we're here. Tyler, parting words, how do they get access to Open Door's instant offer platform?
If you go to opendoor.com/agents,
That's it.
yeah, opendoor.com/agents, you can request an offer on behalf of your client. You can also apply for partnership opportunities. You can learn more from there. But yeah, opendoor.com/agents.
Yeah, if you guys didn't pay attention when he was talking about commission compression, basically all the things that he talked about that they take advantage of on you guys were certainty, so knowing that the home, one, is going to get sold and when it's going to get sold. That's why these guys have like a guaranteed sale program. Think of something that could work for that. Another thing he talked about is, the stress of all the showings and dealing with all of that. That's a big stress for your clients. So think about solutions that you guys can put out there to solve that. So think about what are these guys going in the door and using against you, and figure out ways to overcome it without going in there like, you don't want to work with them, they suck, they're mean, they blah, blah, blah. Like, go in there with solutions. You know what they're going to hit on to talk negatively about listing with an agent. So know that information in advance and already overcome those objections without even mentioning who they are. So go in there with your solutions for the pain points that they take advantage of.
Yeah, utilize this as a buyer. It's a free offer. Your job as listing agent is to bring offers, right? So I have no emotional tie to it, right? So the ones that work, great, we have a great experience, and the ones that don't, then that's your opportunity to then step in and provide the value there to be able to provide them that path to success.
Kyle, you're going to close this out before I just give a few parting words. Let's give people a sense for how does a top producer think about their business? So you're not just showing up reactive to what's happening today. You actually have a projection for what you want your year to look like, your quarter look like, your month to look like. What do you have planned for the year? How will you define a successful year? Not from a we sold X amount of homes perspective, but what will have happened in the evolution of your business?
I think everybody's got different goals. Something I've learned with coaching my agents over the years is not to, like these guys put properties in buy boxes. Well, don't put people in buy boxes. Everybody's a little bit different. And it was kind of funny at the beginning of the year, my coach asked me what my goal was. And it wasn't to sell more homes or to make more money. It was actually to work less hours. And that might be one of your goal personally, or it might be one of your agent's goals. So that's important to understand whether you're coaching yourself or doing some self-reflection or coaching other people on your team. Understand everybody's different. I have a 2-year-old daughter. Like, I want to spend as much time with her as possible. So for me, it's what can I implement in my business to minimize the amount of time I have to spend in it so that I can spend more time with my daughter. So for me, I'm looking for all of the inefficiencies in my business and then figuring out ways to make them more efficient, to save me time. I literally have a driver. So when I'm going to appointments, typically what happens, especially out here because things seem to be really far spread apart, your average commute time might be 30 minutes to an appointment and 30 minutes home from the appointment. Well, what are you doing during the 30 minutes? You're doing one of two things. You're either texting and driving, which is not smart, and I think that you guys have cameras out here for that too, right? You could be talking while driving, and you're having decent conversations, but you're not having the best conversation because you don't have a computer in front of you. or you're just focused on driving and getting absolutely nothing done. I don't like any of those three options. I'd rather have somebody driving me to all of my appointments so that the entire time I can be 100% focused and get shit done. Because for me, going 2-3 appointments a day, if I can save 2 or 3 hours of my time, that's so important to me. So that's just one small example of it. And especially like when I'm going home for the day, the fact that when I get home, I'm actually home and present, as opposed to getting home and now having to play catch up from everything that came in over the last hour, that's really important. So think about your business, and it's not always about doing more business. A lot of times it's about being more efficient in your business. And think about what are those subtle little changes that you can make in your business. And for me, it's bringing people with me on my appointments so they can, one, shadow me, which is also important because now they get to see exactly how I do it, and it's a huge learning experience for them. But at the same time, it's a driver for me, so I get to focus and work the entire time that I'm going there. So that's just a subtle little change. So think about when you leave here, think about what are those subtle little changes you can make in your business to be more efficient, because that efficiency is either going to give you more time to go spend with your family if that's what you want to do, which is my goal this year, or it's going to give you more time to go sell more homes. So think about what are those little inefficiencies in your business.
There's a book connected to that. I'll give you a recommendation. It's a time management book, and you already might be putting your pen down because who wants to read a time management book? It is a great read. It's a fun read, and anything by this author, by the way, is a fun read. Dan Kennedy's No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs is a great read. And here's what it did for me. We've all heard if you want to make $100 an hour, you can't do $20 an hour work or $10 hour work or $5 hour work, right? Like, we understand that concept in theory. How many of us really apply it to our lives? Like, really apply it to our lives? Like, done with the $10 hour work, never again. I read that book, something shifted and clicked for me, and my income corresponded. It followed. It turns out that that saying exists for a reason. So, Dan Kennedy's No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs, I highly would recommend it. That's the time that we have here for this, for our panel. We thank you for your time, your attention. This is a great audience. Go implement something. There's two things you could do right now as soon as you leave, as soon as I shut this thing down. You can get up and run off to the next thing, lose your notes, or they'll just get sucked up wherever, conference, seminar, panel notes end up. It's kind of like socks in the washer dryer, right? Like they end up in some alternate universe. Seminar, conference, panel notes, they typically end up in some shoebox in the garage. Or you could actually stay put and commit to yourself on what, even one thing, are you going to do that'll move your business forward. And it can be that simple. That book I just recommended really made a difference. It could be Kyle's retargeting strategy. It could be that you're committing to Jennifer's pre-listing package. What are you going to do to make the rest of 2018 more successful in the first half and ensure that 2019 is even better than 18? Appreciate your time. Some of you have opted in to, a couple of us are going to hang back for a separate event, a private lunch. If so, stick in the room, come see us. We'll get you details, information for where. Otherwise, I hope we've delivered on what we promised, which was just pure value. How do we go take more listings and have a more successful business this year? I do want to quickly thank, again, Guild Mortgage. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for being a great partner to a friend of mine, Jennifer Wayner, the Wayner Group, or the Wayner team, and so many others throughout the Valley. So you guys are awesome. And if I really spent time telling you all about Fidelity and how special, how important they are to the growth path that I've been on, that my team's been on, we'd have to spend another 30 minutes here. So many incredible opportunities, business lessons, and most importantly, introductions to some of the key team members that we have that have helped us grow our business come through Fidelity. Thank you, Dina, thank you, Sharon, for everything that your company does. And we'll hope to see you guys and hang out again soon. Take care, be well. If you're having lunch, stick around with us.